Peter. All right. We are recording. I believe we are recording. Okay. Yep, we are recording. All right. All right. Let me start this one off. So, welcome everyone. This is the regularly scheduled Everett Planning Board meeting. Also, if you're kind of a member of the public right now, we're just gonna if you can mute your microphones until the public hearing portion. Welcome to the regularly scheduled planning board meeting. We've had a bit of a delay due to kind of the COVID-19 outbreak, but we are operating as usual here in the city of Everett. So I'm just going to read the agenda out. I'm going to share it with my screen so everyone can see and kind of read along with you guys. So if you're looking at my screen, you can kind of also see the agenda. So April 14th at 7 p.m., the regularly scheduled planning board agenda continued. All the agenda items continued from the prior meeting due to the postponement of the March 23rd meeting. Here's the agenda for the remote participation meeting. I'm just going to read this response out. In response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12, 2020, the Everett Planning Board shall be meeting remotely until further notice. The audio conferencing application Zoom will be used for this purpose. An online link and telephone access number will be provided on all meeting agendas and also on the city's website. This application will permit the public to access and participate in future board meetings and hearings. Instructions for joining meetings in this manner will be provided on the city and the city clerk's websites. In addition, ECTV may provide coverage of these meetings. We're working with ECTV. Once this meeting is completed, we will be working with ECTV and they will be posting it on the ECTV schedule. We're not entirely sure what the schedule is going to be yet, but once we find out, we'll let everyone know. We extend our thanks for your understanding and participation in this manner, which is intended to keep members of the board and the public safe. So on the agenda has the link to this Zoom meeting. The meeting ID is 720-777-3164. There is also a mobile number if anyone is unable to see this meeting. There's a tap mobile number, which the number is 1-312-626-6799. And the passcode to enter the meeting is the meeting ID 720-777-3164, in which you would touch the pound sign 2 times afterwards. Also, all planning board agenda items are available to view at www.cityofeverett.com/449/planning-board. And if anyone has any questions about planning board agenda and agenda items or process of accessing such agenda items or using the Zoom platform, please contact myself, Shane.O'Brien at ci.everett.ma.us. So after reading that, I would like to do a nice formal roll call of the board members. All right. Tony, did you want to do this or did you want me to do it?
I can do it, sure.
Sure thing.
Hi, everybody. So roll call here. Leo Pisano.
Here.
Michael O'Connor.
Here.
Cheyenne Rangel.
Here.
George D'Angelo.
Here.
Bill Mastrocola.
Here.
James Tarr.
Here.
And Chairman Fred Cafasso.
Present.
All right. Mr. Chairman, everybody's present, loud and clear.
All right. Mr. Chairman, shall I read off the agenda?
Surely.
All right. So let me share my screen and go from there. All right. So first up, we have a roll call of the members of the board. Number 2, we have public hearings. We have old business. We have the site plan review for 35 to 45 Garvey Street, as well as the inclusionary zoning for 35 to 45 Garvey Street. Third item on the agenda is 166 to 172 School Street, 4 to 6 Norwood Street. They've asked for a continuance to June 8th, 2020, but let's, since the people of Garvey Street are here currently, We'll start off with the continuation of the public hearing, 435 to 45 Garvey Street. As the board may know, and members of the public, the board will consider a public hearing to consider the above listed application in connection with the proposal to construct a 591 unit residential complex with 7,388 square feet of retail space. Additionally, extra parking and 2 8-story type 3A buildings, which will share a at-grade outdoor pedestrian courtyard. Being a parcel of land referenced by Assessors Department as K0-08-00088. So without further ado, will those representing Garvey Street please start? I see Peter right there, and Johanna's here as well. So we'll start you guys off. I'll be sharing the screen. If you can see the presentation screen on my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. So without further ado, I'll let you start.
Thank you, Shane. For those who don't remember me, my name is Johanna Schneider. I'm with the law firm of Hemingway and Barnes, and I'm counsel for the 35 Garvey Street project. I'm joined by Peter Bartash, who's a principal at Capitol Hall Partners, and the rest of our development team is also with us. On behalf of the whole team, I want to extend our thanks to the members of the board and to the city staff for holding this meeting under these very unusual circumstances. We really appreciate the city's commitment to moving this forward. By way of very brief recap, I believe we were first before you in an official capacity in early December 2019. We've been back since then several times for traffic peer review and also to present a slightly revised proposal, which entailed shifting the bulk of the project parking to an additional site that's been incorporated into the project site at 25 Garvey Street. Since we were last here over the winter, we have continued discussions with city staff regarding off-site transportation and civil engineering improvements. And we have been working on draft decisions for both the site plan review and inclusionary zoning special permit, which hopefully the board has received in advance of this meeting. We have just a handful of slides that Peter Bartash is going to walk through just to catch everybody up on where we are and to remind you of what the project looks like, because it has been a while since we were here. And then we'll be available to answer any questions and potentially to walk through the draft decisions. Peter.
Great. Thank you, Johanna. And Shane, if you wouldn't mind going to the second slide here. Yeah, so Johanna just gave a great overview of what we've been up to and where we're at now. We had submitted a set of revised drawings and an updated application to the planning staff on February 12th, 2020. And as mentioned by Johanna, that plan set included the addition of 25 Garvey Street, the site currently occupied by Colonial Marble Company, so that we could go ahead and provide the new parking garage that we had described in our last meeting with you. And today we'll go ahead and look at the revised site plan and talk a little bit more in detail about that garage, what it looks like, and how it works with the rest of the plan. We've also completed the peer review process and coordinated all of that peer review input from ISD, from DPW, and also from HSH, who was the traffic peer reviewer. And in that time, we've gone ahead and completed additional environmental analysis on the site based on some new information that we uncovered through additional exploration. And so what we'd like to do is just walk through not only that set of drawings and to explain to you the current form of the site plan, but to also express some of the conclusions that were reached as part of the traffic peer review process, knowing that that was a really important issue the last time that we were together. So Shane, could you go to the next slide? Great. So on the left-hand side here, what you'll see is just a brief summary of changes. And so first and foremost, we are still at 891 units for the overall project. The bedroom count is now 853 bedrooms. We have 53 studios, 319 one-bed units, 176 two-bed units, and 43 three-bed units. As part of the process of incorporating the garage into the site plan, and if you're looking at the site plan on the right-hand side of the page, there are two U-shaped buildings, and each of those buildings are the residential buildings. And there's a rectangular gray box at the top of the plan. That is the new parking garage location. What we were able to do is to take a balance of this parking, which we have increased from 774 spaces to 1,006 spaces. And we were able to shift a balance of the parking into the parking garage, keep a single layer of parking beneath each of the residential buildings, and then reallocate the unit mix and resize the unit mix based on market feedback in order to maintain the form and intent of the plan that we had been discussing with the board to date, but also to accommodate input from the market about the project itself and its configuration. We've also gone ahead and gotten into the next level of detail about access, about site design, about landscaping, lighting, location. And so what this plan represents is also the culmination of input from Howard Stein Hudson as to items such as the location, the entry to the garage, or the configuration of the loading dock, which you'll use is a part of the left-hand building on the plan. And it's bear with me, it's difficult to not be able to point to the drawing as we're walking through it. So I'll do my best to describe what I'm talking about. All the way on the right-hand side of the access drive that separates the residential buildings from the garage, we have a emergency-only gate that prohibits vehicular access from Garvey Street and focuses majority of our traffic flow onto Spring Street and through that intersection between Spring Street and Garvey Street, along 2nd Street. And along 2nd Street, when we're looking at the sort of site plan you see that sits at the edge of 2nd Street in front of both of the residential buildings, you'll note that we're showing parallel parking and a bike lane and landscaping and a sidewalk of a certain width. We've gone through an extensive process of coordinating the preferred future condition along that edge of the site with the city's traffic engineer and also the traffic peer reviewer as well, to set the stage for the future improvement of 2nd Street. And I think ultimately that's a really important point about what this plan represents. It represents the culmination of an extensive review process with all of the departments in the city and their experts that they've brought in to really set the stage for what this pattern of development will be within this district from this development and moving forward. As part of that process, one of the things I do want to also touch on is just the environmental remediation aspect of the project. In previous meetings, we've talked about the existing environmental contamination. We've also talked about the fact that the site sits in a floodplain and that we are required as part of our own internal guidelines to bring the average grade of the new site up above the anticipated future flood elevation. And in doing so, we've done some more diligence on the site conditions, the environmental contamination conditions on site, and learned of additional contaminants that require further review, both with Mass DEP, but also the EPA. And I'm sure that most people are familiar with the fact that there were brownfield tax brownfield grants given to the city of Everett to assist with the study of this site back in 2015 and 2016, and that many efforts have been enacted both by the current owners and also by our team to go and both address the existing contamination, but further understand it and to refine an understanding of a path to bringing the site to closure and addressing the environmental contamination. As part of that process, we will be required to record an AUL on this site, and this development plan is designed in conjunction with both that path to remediating the site, handling all of that additional contamination, but also in recognition of the fact that there will be an AUL on this site. So the amount of soil that we're bringing in to raise the grade in the site, the configuration and design of those residential buildings with that layer of podium parking below, the location of the parking garage, and all of the other aspects and features of the plan are very specifically carved out to be able to support the path to closure for the site so that we can turn this back into a vital and contributing piece of the urban fabric at the edge of this district. So Shane, could you go to the next slide? So here what you're seeing are just a series of the elevations just as a refresh for the board. We haven't advanced the elevations much in terms of overall intent or moved it beyond what was shown to the board previously, with the exception of the fact that these are now 7-story buildings rather than 8 stories, as was noted in the meeting agenda. And so here you're just looking at the top of the screen. This is the kind of flat elevation that faces 2nd Street that shows just the different ends and materials and elements that we've used to try to break down the overall scale of the facade and create a meaningful and comfortable pedestrian experience along 2nd Street. And at the bottom of the page is the elevation that faces, essentially faces back toward the south, faces towards the city, towards our abutters to the south. Shane, would you mind going to the next slide? Right, and so here at the top of the page, we see the elevation that faces Spring Street, and with the sort of right-hand side of that elevation is the elevation beyond its faces 2nd Street, so you're sort of seeing that at an angle. And then at the bottom of the page, that west elevation is the elevation facing Garvey Street. On the right-hand side of this sheet is a photo of a mock-up from a similar project showing an exterior vent. And in the previous conversations with the board had asked about our design intent behind the types of vents that we would want to use on the project. So we wanted to bring this as an example and answer that open issue for the board. Shane, could you go to the next slide? So here, what this slide discusses is the actual parking garage that we saw in the plan previously. And so on the upper left-hand side of the sheet, what you're seeing is an elevation of the garage facing the project and facing that internal access drive that's internal to our site. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing the facade that faces Garvey Street. What we've done is we've proposed a screening element that wraps this garage. We know that this garage is visible from most vantage points in and around the site and in the broader area, given the fact that the existing kind of surrounding fabric is a little bit lower. And so we've made sure that we're not designing any facade of the garage to be a quote-unquote kind of back wall or back face. We know that they're all public facing, and we want to be intentional with the aesthetic of the garage. And in many ways, the sort of screening that you see, this panelized screening element that's represented by the yellow and the 2 perspectives on the bottom, that is it's similar to the type of screening you see over at the backyard around that parking garage, which makes it a much more meaningful part of the project and the plan, rather than just being kind of an exposed and untreated garage parked in the middle of an otherwise residential site. And again, the garage is sized such that we're providing more parking than we necessarily need to from a zoning perspective. We're sort of tasked with the fact that the site right now does not have, as it is today, incredible access to public transportation. And so we're recognizing the fact that many of our residents will require cars on day one, but know that over time, it's possible that that demand from our project itself will decrease. And we've discussed with the city and reflected in the decision the option to free up unused parking capacity in the future to make that available for rent by other future developments in this area. So we are taking this, what would otherwise be kind of a landlocked portion of the site, and attempting to create what could become a very nice future public amenity that consolidates a lot of that parking and allows other projects to provide more meaningful public space and a better overall development program on their specific sites. And in the lower left-hand corner, what you can see is just a small vignette showing kind of the landscape space between the 2 buildings with the parking garage at the very back. So if you're imagining imagining standing at the edge of 2nd Street and looking through that landscaped space and seeing the garage. It has a pleasant urban feel and a really thoughtful scale and character. And Shane, could you go to the next slide? And then to the real, I think the core question, now that we have 1,006 spaces of parking on site, and we're proposing this project in an area that to date has been identified as an area with some challenges from a traffic standpoint. We did go through an extensive review process with Howard Stein Hudson, and our engineers, Vanessa and Associates, were able to work together and identify a few key improvements to the surrounding infrastructure that will address and alleviate some of the short-term impacts from the project, but will also set the stage for the future improvements to 2nd Street so that the project is making an immediate and meaningful contribution to the traffic issues that it faces today, but is also facilitating the city's vision for a regional approach to the traffic challenges along 2nd Street and along Revere Beach Parkway. And so to just walk through these items very quickly, on the upper left-hand side of the slide, you'll note that we're saying we'll provide funding to the city to update the sidewalk and restrip the existing crosswalk across Revere Beach Parkway. And so essentially from the edge of our site up and around the check cashing parcel, and then to the left until we reach the crosswalk, we're providing the funds to go ahead and improve that sidewalk, improve that pedestrian infrastructure in that location, and to start to be able to bridge the gap from the residential neighborhood across Revere Beach Parkway to create the beginnings of that connection from that neighborhood to the sort of northwest down 2nd Street, which is sort of a part of the vision for this overall district as it grows and becomes more of a destination for this community. You'll note there's a dashed red line along the front edge of our site facing 2nd Street, and that's indicating the 15 feet of our site that we've planned for and reserved for the future right-of-way as 2nd Street has widened to accommodate the Silver Line expansion as well as the addition of bike lanes and other traffic enhancements. And as you move further down 2nd Street to the intersection with Spring Street, this is where there are some important improvements that I just want to touch upon really quickly. So in upgrading the crosswalk, the ramps, the signage, and the striping at this intersection, what we're doing is we're encouraging traffic from our project, which spills out onto Spring Street, to then enter the intersection between Spring Street and 2nd Street, and rather than trying to make a left at rush hour and end up queuing all the way up toward Revere Beach Parkway, we're encouraging that traffic to cross over 2nd Street, and you see that big white box in the middle of the intersection. That's a do not block box with the intent of keeping any sort of stopped or queued traffic out of that intersection so that cars from our development can go up the extent of Spring Street to the intersection of Spring Street and Revere Beach Parkway at an intersection that it currently has relatively low usage in context of this overall area. And in doing so, we're also milling and overlaying that entire length of Spring Street between 2nd Street and Revere Beach Parkway and upgrading the sidewalks to facilitate that movement. So we're reactivating a piece of the existing infrastructure and creating a path for cars from this project to be able to queue and to be able to stack in the event that they need to during peak hours, but in such a way that avoids exacerbating the issues along 2nd Street. And it's that sort of planning and thinking that goes into the 15 or so recommendations that came in from the peer reviewer, which are reflected in the draft decision itself. So I'm happy to answer any questions the board might have about the project and where it's at and any of the changes we've made along the way. And if there are no questions, then I'd like to turn it over to Shane and Tony to talk about the draft decision itself.
All right. Any board members have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
The entrance off of Spring Street into the area, into the site, it's a right-hand turn. It was actually on the first slide. I don't know if you can show us that, Peter, but that turn looks very tight. I know you did a little separate drawing on that, and
To the third slide, Shane.
Third slide. Right here.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's the intersection you're talking about, Leo, right? Where we make the right turn off of Spring Street?
I'm trying to point to it. Wonderful. Yeah, that little, exactly there. If I'm coming along,
Hey, Leo, I believe you're mute. Are you
Yeah.
muted?
Leo, you cut out.
you there, Peter?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry, Leo, I caught half your question. Could you repeat it?
Sure, not a problem. The entrance off of Spring Street, if I were to take a right-hand turn onto the site, if it's a tractor-trailer truck, it would appear that I'd wind up on the wrong side of the street. And in other words, I'd be driving into oncoming traffic because it would seem that that turn is very tight. Now, I know you did a little drawing of it, but I'm just asking the question. So later on, if something comes up, we did bring the subject up. Okay, Pete?
Absolutely. And in response, just so you know, the peer reviewer asked us the same question. Bowler, our civil engineers, ran an auto turn analysis, both for delivery trucks, any other larger trucks, as well as regular vehicles themselves, and confirmed that there are no opposite lane conflicts with any sort of turning movements into or out of the site, meaning that the turning radius of that entrance into the site is designed to allow cars or trucks to make that turn without going into the oncoming traffic.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then I got a question for Shane.
Sure thing.
In the review tonight, we're not taking into consideration sections 28 and 29, correct? They're being pushed off now out of our...
For the stormwater?
Yes, correct. That's going to the city engineers.
Yeah,
so we don't
moving
have to
forward, it's
review
going to
that.
be the consideration that the engineering department handle all stormwater review
Yep.
for the site. You know, we'll look at basic stormwater applications, but for 28 and 29, we're not going to be looking at it at this time. We're going to wait
Okay.
for the engineering department to get a full set of official plans to look over for the drainage and stormwater in accordance to 15 and 15A.
Is that going to affect getting the approval for the site plan review then?
No, it shouldn't, because it didn't affect the project on Norman Street. It was just something that we put into the decision language that the engineering department look into.
Mhm.
But as you know, for Norman Street at the last meeting, 28 and 29 was waived.
That's why I asked the question, the same thing. Okay, couple of questions then. No variances are needed on this project?
They would still need to file with the building department to make sure that there's no variances needed for the project. Projects in the commercial triangle district newly created, but they're going to need an official letter from Jim Soper to make sure that that new garage meets all the requirements for the zoning ordinance.
Again, that won't affect us granting site plan permit review, correct?
No, it shouldn't affect any site plan review because, like we said, we're looking technically at the site.
Okay.
If there's any variances in the future that are required accordance to Jim, the applicant will have to come back before us and we'll have to send some recommendations to the Zoning Board of Appeals. But at this
Okay.
time, we're not aware of any violations in accordance to the zoning ordinance.
Okay, one last question then. Is all the departments okay with this project? So if we do grant a site plan review, we're not in conflict with any of their decisions?
I haven't heard of any issues. We've been working since the beginning of this project, since before my time with the city. This project's been in front of the department since October of 2019. Tony can speak to kind of how the project's developed since October. But from my work, we've worked with the engineering department. We've worked directly with the building department, and we've worked with the fire department in terms of receiving feedback and comments for this project.
So it would seem that the applicant has fulfilled their obligations with the departments so that this project could actually proceed now if the board chooses to.
Correct. And I think Tony's going to speak to that.
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Shane. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Leo. My only comment is with the parking garage now being included, we're still waiting for comment, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, on fire department and engineering.
We've received comment from fire department. They have zero issue with the garage.
On the garage, okay.
Comments from them probably about an hour ago.
Okay.
Engineering, they sent us over information about shoring up the site after the storm yesterday. So there was some debris around. So Peter, you contacted the current owner of the site to get that shored up. But we've been in constant contact with Greg St. Louis, and once the site plan portion is approved, there's still work to be done, and that's some language that's going to be included in our decision as well to make sure that DPW and engineering's comments are addressed. But it's a continuing process because there's questions about pipe capacity, what the condition of the pipes are, and kind of additional information about stormwater. But that's going to be a continuing process throughout this site plan review. Even after the board's approval, there's still a lot for the applicant to be doing with the engineering department.
But that doesn't stop us from granting the site plan review.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
May I ask a question of Tony?
Surely.
Tony, would you want to speak to just the process of public comment and how that impacts sort of the timing of when we act on, or when the board might act on the decision itself?
Sure, and a great question. And so as part of this process, and I know Robin is also on the line as well from KP Law, whereas we are in this different format, public will have an opportunity from tonight, opportunity to provide comment. So this will be rebroadcasted on demand on ECTV and so on. And so the logic here is to allow those that are unable to participate in this forum to allow them to provide comment thereafter. So recommendation, if we were to move forward tonight, would be to make the final decision at the next meeting. And Robin, Shane, fill me in if I'm missing something here.
Yeah, just to continue on what Tony's saying. I'm recording this meeting as of now. Not as of now, but since the beginning. So this will be posted on our planning board agenda page as well as on ECTV. We have access on our agenda. We actually have a link to a Google Drive that has all the presentation information. So rather than look at kind of my small screen, we have all the information and all the file packet for everything that's about on our agenda, and the anticipation that at our next meeting, which is going to be scheduled April 28th at 7 o'clock, I'll have the agenda out for everyone. We'll have carrying public comments for the next 14 days. We'll also have public comment today as well, if there's any members of the public who are here. We'll get to that portion after we discuss the decision language. But if you send either Tony Souza at ci.everett.ma.us or to myself, Shane.O''Brin at ci.everett.ma.us. Send us any comments for the project, against the project, just general comments. We'd be happy to answer any questions. But yeah, after discussion with the department, rather than open up the hearing and then make a decision after the meeting, we felt that just because of some of the logistical issues, that we would post this video online, take in 14 days of public comment from, and this is a continuing public hearing. So there's been opportunities for the members of the public to comment on this project since it's opening on December 9th. But rather than finalize this meeting tonight, we'd rather take in the new information that Peter has provided to us today, allow the board to kind of recognize some of this new information, and wait until the next meeting on the April 28th at 7 o'clock to accept further public comment.
Yeah. And Robin, thank you, Shane. And Robin, I don't know if you wanted to add anything or if we missed anything.
Nope, I think you guys are square on with this.
Okay.
All right, so, all right, Peter, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So you want to continue over to the decision language?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right, so let's get let me get that out. All right, let's talk about site plan. We haven't got into inclusionary just yet. So, as I stated, all this decision is also available on our Google Drive information on the agenda for the link. But let me start sharing my screen, and we can kind of go over each portion of it. All right. So typical decision language addressed to Capitol Hall. So certifying that a public hearing of the Everett Planning Board opened for the 28th and closed on a date certain. We anticipate that date be April 28th, 2020. The decision would be pursuant to the provisions of Section 19 of the Everett zoning ordinance to authorize the applicant's proposed development at the property known as 25 Garvey Street and 35 to 45 Garvey Street. Assessor's tax map K7, lot 67 and 88, respectively, as shown on the plan titled Garvey Street Apartment Site Development Plans for Capitol Hall Partners, LLC, prepared by Bowler, dated October 31st, 2019, revised through February 12th, 2020. The site plan hereby vote to approve or deny the site plan subject to the findings conditions below. So let me zoom out. So this page is typical of the materials submitted. The applicant has submitted a good portion of material since their first submission dated October 31st, 2019, which contained the application, the narrative, certified list of abutters, the initial site development plans, the rendering of the site development plans at that time, the project package, local map, a shadow study, and as well as a transportation impact assessment for the proposed residential development. It was completed by Vanessa and Associates Incorporated. From there, at our December 9th meeting, the board voted to send those items to a peer review done by Howard St. Hudson, in which the peer review was prepared by Howard St. Hudson for January 24th, 2020. And on February 10th, 2020, Vanessa and Associates responded to comments, and Garvey Street, the folks at Capitol Hall Partners, updated their plans on February 12th, 2020 with new architecturals from Stantec, updated site development plans, as well as an updated cover letter, in which the 10th, they responded to Howard St. Hudson's comments, and on March 4th, Howard St. Hudson provided comments back to Vanessa and Associates. So the additional information that was provided to the board tonight will also be included in this decision language. So like I said, it says right here, additional documents to be included. So we'll include additional information. So if the board has any questions, I can proceed further. So findings of facts include all the information provided, including the materials submitted by the applicant, narratives, site layout, material plans, and all additional other materials. Showing that the project will be located on 2 parcels. When the applicant came before us initially, it was 35 to 45 Garvey Street, but since the acquiring of 25 Garvey Street, we have incorporated that into the project as well. And the applicant will be constructing a mixed-use 591-unit residential building with a 7,400 square feet of retail complex comprised of 2 7-story buildings. Previously, we had an 8-story, 2 8 stories, but we have changed that to be updated as part of this decision. A 5-story above-grade garage, including site layout and improvements. The number of bedrooms are 853 in total for the site, and the residential gross floor area is 644,921 square feet. As Peter stated, the project is going to include 1,006 parking spaces for resident and customer use. 177 spaces will be included in the building podium, and 811 spaces will be provided in above grade garage, collectively the project garages, which would equal out to a ratio of 1.66 per resident. Subject to the conditions of project shown on the site plan, describing the materials, comply with the provisions, requirements, and standards of the guidelines of Section 19 of the Everett zoning ordinance, which is the language for site plan review. As I said, the project has to meet all the dimensional and zoning requirements for the commercial triangle economic development district, whereas the project site is located. So they're going to have to get information from Jim Soper, building commissioner, to make sure that everything complies. If not, then they're going to have to ask for a variance. But based on kind of the work of the applicants done, I'm assuming they're to have everything by right.
That's correct.
So part of this approval is to make sure that everything meets the current site plan review, subject to within the conditions of the construction operations of the project, safe and adequate interior vehicular movement, traffic design, accurate access and egress points to and from Spring, Garvey, and 2nd Streets. Currently, the site has significant soil contaminations from historical industrial operations. The project shall remediate the contamination consistent with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, thereby increasing the safety of the city and its residents, and that the final confirmations of the planning board have reviewed the materials in light of the criteria enumerated by Section 19, and that it meets it has appropriate screening, meets the quality of the area, the development and the intent of the district, and the compatibility of the proposed district with the surrounding areas and land uses. So, as part of this read-along, we have information, just general comments that we can, if the board chooses, if the board wants to go line by line as part of this, or we can just kind of discuss the general comments at the time of the 28th and make this decision language available. I know the board has had this decision language in front of them. So if there's any questions from the board in terms of decision language, we can discuss.
It's the pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion for continuance for site plan review.
You making a motion, Leo, in regards to a continuation to the 28th?
Did you get all that?
No, I heard you said a motion. We just had any questions. We were asking if the board had any questions in regards to
I thought I heard what
that was sent over.
Okay.
But I think before we look for any continuances, I think we want to also see if there's any public here for comment.
That's a good idea.
Is there anyone here for outside comment, please? Does everyone hear me?
I can hear you, Fred.
Hearing none?
You talking to the public or to us? Board.
Talking to the public.
Okay.
All right.
No outside comments, then
I do not see anyone in the chat. I do not see anyone outside. So I would recommend that we not necessarily close public comment, but we'll continue the public comment to the next meeting and accept any feedback, whether it be an email to the department or just general correspondence.
all right.
To the next meeting, which would be April 28th.
So in essence, the chair will entertain a motion to keep the public hearing for public comments open and for a continuance till April 28th.
That's what you want to hear now, Fred?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to keep public hearing open and a motion for continuance for site plan review for 3545 Garvey Street until April 28th, 2020 at Everett City Hall, 3rd floor, Convarian Room at 7 o'clock.
Well, it may not be at that location, but just a continuance is necessary. That's all.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second to motion?
Motion made and seconded to continue to April 28th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to do a roll. I know I sound like everyone, but we're just going to do a roll call for everyone for each continuation just because of the chaos.
Okay, so roll call.
Sure.
Leo Pisano,
How
Yes.
can you do it?
Mike O'Connor,
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangel,
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Oh, my.
Oh.
Christ. I was hitting X. I couldn't exit out.
Yeah, no, we'll inform IT of that.
Nice.
Wow.
I think we could log off, log back on,
You think?
if it happens again, but I'll inform IT.
No kids are around, I hope.
We'll get to person.
It showed
Oh,
up.
my God.
Yeah, like out of the whole screen, yeah.
Now, can you edit that out of there, Shane, for the public if this is being filmed?
What's going on, E6?
That was unbelievable. I read about
We'll
this.
take care of that.
Yeah. Well, I apologize. I made sure that only I can share at one time, but yeah, totally inappropriate. Okay. So we do have a continuation of roll call for Shane, and all right, everyone was there, and
Yep.
all right, you've been continued, Peter.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you on the 28th.
Yep.
Shane, may I ask a question before we wrap up? Is that continuation also for the inclusionary piece of this, or was that vote just with respect to the site plan?
That would be respect to the site plan. We
just
can
site plan.
discuss inclusionary zoning as well.
Okay.
If you guys would like to open up the inclusionary zoning portion as well. All right. Peter, you feel comfortable to open up inclusionary zoning for today?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Sorry, I thought that question was for the board, not for us. I apologize.
Oh, yeah, is the board okay with the inclusionary portion of? I think I lost Fred.
Yeah. You lose me?
No, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I can't see me. Your video was stopped. Do I do anything?
No, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
Okay. That wasn't my video, by the way.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. No, we'll edit that out for ECTV. But yeah, I apologize for all that. But yeah, if the board feels comfortable with hearing out the IT portion as well, we can talk about inclusionary zoning.
Okay.
All right. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We're into inclusionary zoning for 3545 Garvey Street.
All right. Peter, if you would like to discuss.
Yeah, sure. So we presented this application in connection with the initial application and presentation to the board. In further conversations with planning staff, we were asked to provide a draft marketing plan, which we had prepared by the same consultant who's done the draft marketing plans for other projects within the city of Everett. That marketing plan has been submitted and reviewed by the planning staff. And one thing to specifically note about the inclusionary zoning application is the fact that we are following the language of the overlay district and the commercial triangle zoning to be able to provide 5% of our units as affordable per the city's definition of affordability. And so that equates to 30 units as that number. And ultimately, it goes back to what I discussed in the prior presentation about the AUL that'll be recorded on the site itself. I know that we've talked at length about the extensive contamination on the site and the costs to both measure and evaluate, but also handle that contamination are they're nothing short of staggering. So we do appreciate that language was afforded within the existing ordinance, and we are following that language.
All right. Does anyone from the board have any questions?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right.
Can we vote on this tonight?
I think we should package it because there's also decision language that we're working with for the inclusionary zoning, which is also available on the Google Drive. So if the board or any members of the public want to look that over as well, but based on this, I think we should give public comment for inclusionary, as well as to see if also entertain a motion for a continuance to the 28th.
Shane, before you do that, do you want to see if there's any public who wants to comment now?
Is there any comment out there from the public, please?
Sure.
Anyone else? Hearing none? The chair will entertain a motion.
We make a motion for continuance. Where should we make the motion that it will be held? Again, the third floor of the Cavarian room, just for the sake of argument?
Yeah, I would make it for the same continuation to the Garvey room, but like I said, all remote meetings will be run through Zoom or another platform in the future. So.
Okay, fine. So I'd make a motion for continuance for inclusionary zoning at 3545 Garvey Street until April 28th, 2020 at Everett City Hall, third floor Cavarian room at 7 o'clock.
Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to continue 3545 Garvey Street for inclusionary zoning. Roll call vote?
Sure thing. Chairman Confaso.
Yes.
Leo Pisano.
Yes.
Michael O'Connor.
Yes.
Cheyenne Rangel.
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
Yes.
All right. 5 in favor, none against. You'll be continued to the April 28th, 2020. So Peter, Johanna, thank you very much for being here. And we'll talk to you before then. Like I said, all public comment, if anyone has any comments for this project, as part of this video and presentation, we will have this 14 days to provide the staff of the planning department public comment. But thank you guys for being here.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. For the board, let me share my screen. Item number 3, 166, 172 School Street, /4-6 Norwood Street. I received a continuance email from the applicant that they're looking to continue to the June 8th, 2020 meeting. So I'm looking from the board for a entertainment of a motion to allow for a continuance for 166, 172 School Street, 4-6 Norwood Street to the June 8th meeting.
The chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion for continuance for site plan review for 166, 172 School Street /4.
All right, we're going to do we need a second. Okay.
Second
Do we
it.
have a second, please?
All right.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to continue 166, 172 School Street /4-6 Norwood Street. Roll call vote, please.
All right, Chairman Confaso,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Leo Pisano,
Yeah.
Cheyenne Rangel,
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
Yes.
All right, 5 on the motion. That item has been continued to the June 8th, 2020 meeting, which will be at the Kavarian Room at City Hall at 7 p.m. All right. Item number 4, new business. Let me, I'm going to read out the public hearing information. Let me just grab that in front of me. All right. Legal notice for Everett Planning Board for the public hearing notice for 983 Broadway. So in accordance with provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 19 of the Everett Zoning Ordinance, the Everett Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Monday, March 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the Speaker George Kavarian Room, 3rd floor, City Hall, 484 Broadway, Everett, Mass. 02149. As we all know, that meeting has been continued to tonight's meeting, and it will be conducted remotely. To consider the above applications in connection to the proposed 9-unit 3-story structure as shown on the plans entitled Site Plan for Board of Appeals, 983 Broadway, the site plan on a parcel shown on the site plan being a parcel of land referenced by Assessors Department as A0-01-000147. The application with narrative and site plan were received on February 19, 2020. The plans are entitled Site Plan for Board of Appeals, 983 Broadway, Everett, Mass. 02149, were prepared by Hayes Engineering Incorporated, 603 Salem Street, Mass, and prepared for the owners of Rex-E LLC of Wakefield, Massachusetts. The application was prepared by attorney David W. Carr. That was an error on my part. It was David O'Neill, dated February 19th, 2020. The copy of the application plans are on file and available in the office of the city clerk in the Department of Planning and Development, located at City Hall, 484 Broadway, Everett, Mass. 02149. It can be inspected during regular City Hall business hours. All persons interested or wishing to be heard on the proposal should appear at the place and time designated above. As items may be continued to later dates, please contact Shane.O'Brien of the Department of Planning and Development at 617-944-0236. As we know, this item was continued to today, April 14th, 2020. And additionally, as provided, the information is also available due to City Hall being closed, or we're all working remotely from City Hall. The building itself is closed. The information is available on the Google Drive on the Planning Board page of the city's website. If anyone also has any issues reaching that page, please contact me at shane.o'_brin@ci.everett.ma.us. Without further ado, if the applicant or their representative is here currently, we'd be happy to chat with you. But I can see that David O'Neill's here, but we just got to have him unmuted. Mr. O'Neill.
So I don't know how I...
Oh, you want me to show the presentation?
Am I still muted?
No, you're not muted anymore, but I'm going to get the presentation available.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right.
Great, yeah, if you can, I had it up here and I didn't.
It's all right, I got it.
So if you bring up the first PowerPoint that shows the current usage as the Little Caesars.
Yep, I got it.
That's a good place to start. But let me introduce myself. My name is David O'Neill. I'm an attorney in Everett. I have offices at 391 Broadway in Everett, which is pretty lonely these days out the window. I represent the developer here, Rex-E LLC. The manager is Sharif Abuzara, who is with us tonight, as is the rest of our development team. Peter Ogren, Hayes Engineering, who you all know, I'm sure. And the architect, Phoenix Architects, and Dorsey, who again has done work in Everett and actually grew up on Estes Street, which is the street that runs into Broadway at 983 Broadway. And a lot of us knew Peter's dad, Mike Sam Dorsey, a long time Everett resident. So I don't know if you've got that 983 Broadway PowerPoint up, but it shows you the site. Mm-hmm. This is a 5,000 square foot parcel on the corner of Broadway and Estes Street, zoned in the business district, and it has been home to, over the years of my knowledge, since about 1995, a series of restaurant use properties. The earliest I can remember is Paul's Cold Cut, I believe, built the structure, operated a business there for a while. There were a few failed businesses in the interim, and it has most recently been occupied by the Little Caesars franchise, which has been out of business, I believe, for a number of months at this point. The owner of the property purchased the property anticipating it to be, and the owner of the property is the proposed developer here, Sharif Abuzara, the manager of Rexy LLC, purchased it with the intention of having a rental property and continuing to use it as a restaurant use. The business, however, failed, and if it hadn't failed then, it likely would have failed by now. And he began to consider alternate uses. The most promising seems to be to return this building to the typical use in the area, which is residential. And if you, Shane, I don't know, I've got you on a gallery view here, so I don't see the current usage site.
Sure, I have a picture of the Little Caesars, and like I said, this the PowerPoint is also available on the Google Drive as part of this, but I do have it on my gallery screen.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not seeing it, but I've got another screen open here.
Sure.
So if you can go to the next, just scroll down to the next proposed screen, which is a 9-unit residential property consisting of 7 one-bedroom units, 1 studio, and 2 two-bedrooms, dispersed through the floors with 2 one-bedrooms on the first floor, 2 one-bedrooms and 1 two-bedroom on the second floor, and the third floor consisting of 1 studio apartment and 3 one-bedroom apartments. We've provided in, and I apologize for not having this kind of in a sequential PowerPoint. I guess we're living and learning with the technology here. Mm-hmm. But we've provided in some of our materials which you can look at, and I know they're on the planning board's website. We've provided a lighting study of the property showing that we will have lighting of the parking area in a manner that is safe without becoming obtrusive or overly bright to the neighbor to the rear. Also, it's kind of tastefully lighted with sconces on the 2 streets that it abuts. The property itself, and you can kind of scroll through this this PowerPoint, Shane, and if you go next to the 983 Broadway site plan, mm-hmm. I'll give you a little bit of, and I've misspelled Broadway there. No. But if you open this, you will see, excuse me, Peter Ogren's Hayes Engineering's site plan. Now, I think those of us who are familiar with the area know that Little Caesars 1-story block structure, it's in the corner right up to the sidewalk. So we're kind of constrained to stay within that area. The 5,000 square foot lot. What we are going to do, however, is slightly widen the front of the edifice on Broadway so that the curb cut on Broadway will be eliminated. That was a cut-through spot that created a lot of in and out for the commercial users, and it was beneficial, I guess, to the commercial users where you've got a constant flow of traffic into the lot. The nature of the takeout businesses that had been there over the year were such that they needed that in and out, in from Broadway, out onto Estes, around Estes, back out onto Broadway. similarly up Estes back into the lot. Not a very functional use and creating a little bit of a cross-travel danger pattern there for cars coming in and out of that lot. We're eliminating that curb cut on Broadway, making all of the entrants come in up Estes Street. And as you know, Estes on this end of Broadway is one way out to Broadway. So the traffic flow will come back around from Chute Street area up into this lot. You can see on the plan, and it gets a little technical because of some of the engineering work that has been done by the Peters here, but the plan shows that we're providing 9 non-tandem off-street parking spaces. We're creating about 470 square feet of open space, which we're going to use for planting and buffering of landscaping on the southerly side. There is a large, it's a maple, but it's a large tree in the back corner. That's not going to be disturbed. That's going to, in fact, have some surface area, some drip area opened up, so hopefully it will be healthier and continue to provide some shielding and screening, some privacy for the neighboring properties. And as I said, 9 off-street non-tandem parking spaces with handicapped access and parking as provided. Some of the other technical things that we might as well look at while we're on this page, and this will of course be addressed with the DPW, is that we've provided for almost complete on-site water retention. There's a there are roof drainage and surface drainage that go into the infiltration system, the subsurface system there that is anticipated to accommodate and planned to accommodate the entirety of the surface water on the site. As you know now, it's simply a paved expanse parking there. Actually, it's not shown on this plan, but there is another. Oh, okay, now we've got it. There's another plan on the planning board site that shows the relative heights, and you can see it a little bit in this current use description here at the Little Caesars.
Yeah, let me get it right now.
The building to the left of the well, we're back to that plan. The building to the left of the current use is at about a height of 62-foot elevation. To the rear is about 62. To the north side, it's the multi-family with the Gina D's hair salon on the first floor. Is about 70 feet, and our plan is to have a height of about, the height of the building will be 35 feet, but with the relative elevation, it will be, in comparison to the other buildings, 68. So 6 feet higher than to the side, 4 feet lower than to the north. So we've got a building that is not overpowering by any means the neighboring uses. And a lot of attention has been given by Peter Sandorsi of Phoenix Architects to make this building aesthetically pleasing and in fitting with the design guidelines that the city has promulgated with Stantec over the years. And Shane, if you can switch to the material that is described as 983 Broadway architectural.
Yeah.
That will show us, I believe, our elevations and the 983 Broadway architectural.
Sure.
There's a fine narrative that kind of describes what I just said, that we've paid attention and tried to be in compliance with the zoning, with the design guidelines. And It's waiting for Shane to get that up, but
Yep, it's we got the narrative in front of my screen.
all right. So if you, what am I doing?
So you said there's pictures. All right, so we have the sample material. I'm on the page of the sample material plan.
Okay, there we go. I see it now. So if you, I skipped one. I apologize. This is not going to be narratively cogent here.
Okay.
But if we, while we're here, we'll look at the material samples. We're using a very traditional 3/1 glazing. It's not going to be an expansive mass. It's going to fit appropriately in with the neighborhood. The trim will be in a sustainable composite material. Some of the design elements, and again, I apologize for having this a little out of order, you'll see when we get to the elevation that the bump outs of the on the second floor have the standing edge metal roof on the bits that are exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And the first floor of the structure is going to be of a dimensional brick, traditional urban red brick, to fit into really the character and the quality of construction that we want to see in Everett. So with that, Shane, if you can find for me
Yes.
the elevation, and that might be
I have a site plan. I have a DBA packet. I got the Broadway. Yeah, the height plans that you sent over, David, as you can see right here, 983 roof heights. It was the site plans.
Okay, I've got it. It's the 983 Broadway Everett ZBA package. Gives you the front, the Broadway facing elevation of the property.
Okay, so which one is that again? Can you repeat that?
Yep, sure. It's the PDF 983 Broadway Everett ZBA packet 414.
Let me get that for us. Oh.
Oh, I see Mr. Soper's with us, but he's not video. Hi, Mr. Soper.
Hi, I'm Attorney O'Neill. How are you today?
I'm well.
All right, so this is the front. I have it on my screen, the front.
There we go. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes a little sense. You can see the first level is, again, all the levels have the 2/1 glazing. First level has that transom look to give it a kind of a period look. The sconces to the either side of the inset entry door, and that's important. That's getting the swing of the door off of the public street. It's giving the necessary elevation so that the slopes within the building, in terms of the hallways and the pitch of the hallways, is within the building requirements, and it's creating a very welcoming and aesthetically pleasing look. Again, the first floor will be that, the first story will be that urban brick look, and if you scroll through that, you'll see some of the possible layouts. Just to continue down, the first floor layout of the plan, you show the access hallway from Broadway. You show some of the parking in the rear. And just to point out, the first floor, there are those 4 spots that are shown toward the rear of the structure are the parking on the first level that is covered by the cantilevered second and third floors, which are shown on the floor plans that you can scroll down to.
Yeah, let me just grab them 1 second. All right, let me just share again. There's that. All right, we're back. So yeah, we're back on the first floor plans.
Okay. And then if you go, that's just showing again where the parking is. Those 4 parking spots are actually will be covered by what we're seeing now, which is the 2nd and 3rd floors. And that, if you go back to that one, that's that's the view from the neighbor's yard. But if you show me, if you can, the sixth slide on that one.
Sure.
The proposed right elevation from St. Street. Yep. Oh, there you go. Perfect. There's a good view of it. So again, that the brick face is continued around all 4 sides of the base. The 2nd and 3rd floors will be the mixture of the hardy board clapboarding, the traditional glazing, excuse me, with the accents of the metallic panels that you saw on the color rendering on the on the front side on Broadway. This is, and again, there are 9 off-street parking spots for these 9 units.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just really all I have in terms of my visual presentation of it, there were a couple of things that I did want to talk about in addition to giving you a little introduction to the project. And that is, we have looked at the traffic. Included in some of the materials were a traffic study put together by Peter Ogren. It's a relatively small residential property. The 9 units are anticipated to produce about 24 exiting trips, 25 entering trips, total of 49 in and out trips per day. That's probably less than a commercial user wants in an hour. If this is returned to a commercial use, to get the kind of traffic, for lack of a better word, but traffic counts that a commercial user is going to need to have a successful business, those are in multiples of what this residential user is going to produce. The neighborhood has been a little bit spoiled by not having anybody in this property for a while, and in the preceding years to have pretty unsuccessful light traffic users. Obviously, in an ideal environmental or economic environment, the usage of that property for a successful commercial enterprise is going to be significantly greater than 25 cars in and 25 cars out per day. It's going to be more like that per hour. We have had some neighborhood meetings. We hosted a neighborhood meeting at the site, and again, change is sometimes difficult, but there was a decent turnout of people who recognize that it's a good residential use. It's about 25 feet from a bus line, from a bus stop on the 99 route. It is a prime commuter-based public transportation using property. And it's going to produce 9 much-needed residential units in our city. I was a little remiss. I didn't talk much about our developer, Sharif, who's still here and is certainly able to. There he is. Answer any questions. But he's from a family that has developed a number of apartments, managed apartments. He's been in the real estate industry for most of his working life. Fortunately, he was in the technology industry for a while and was able to at least get me to this level of technological aptitude, which he probably is cringing when I'm not handling this stuff well. But in any event, we've got a developer who's going to continue to own this property, continue to manage it. It's not going to be a condominium. They're not going to be sold off. He is going to retain control of the kind of tenants that he's going to need to have a successful business. And I'm pleased to represent him and bring a project of this quality to a site that really needs to be productively redeveloped. I know we scanned by one of the, we scrolled by one of the slides showing the zoning chart. There is minimal zoning relief, and we will have an application before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that zoning relief is fairly limited, 3 items: the front and side yard setbacks. Obviously, given the conditions that presently exist, that structure is right up to Broadway and it's right up to SD Street. We are establishing a significant rear yard separation and providing some open space. And the other point of zoning relief that we'll be looking for is relief. Believe it or not, 9 parking spots. It might sound like a lot given some of the projects that we've heard about in our city, but actually we do need to get we will be seeking zoning relief from a requirement of 18 spots from a 2 parking spots per unit requirement to the 1 per unit that we'll be providing. In the same arguments that you've heard before about the nature of public transportation and the utilization of other means of alternative commuting will be part of our presentation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So with that, I don't know if either of our professionals have anything to add. I know Peter probably could have done a much better job of describing his project. Peter Sandorsi, rather, could have done a much better job of describing his project. But if anyone from the team has anything to add, or Sharif, would certainly be open to any questions from the board. And we know we're introducing this project to you here in a slightly unusual format for the board, but hopefully you can see that the project, what it has to offer, and what we're hoping to bring to the city. And be open to any questions you might have.
All right. Does the board have any questions for Mr. O'Neill or Mr. Sharif or Mr. Sandorsi? Oh, Leo, you're on mute. Still on mute. Let me unmute you.
It's you. Right, it's not.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I do have some questions. Absolutely. When you started out your presentation, there was a slide that was called the proposed plan.
I'm not hearing Leo.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question, Leo?
Yes. Yeah. When you started out your presentation, one of the first slides was the picture of the Little Caesar, and the next one was of the proposed plan, showed a building to the back. Is that building the one that's going to be, go ahead, now the next slide, I think it was.
Correct.
You show a much different building that's right there. Is that the building you're building, or are you building the one that's on the print that we have?
This is the newest proposal. They sent this over as part of their presentation. The initial proposal did not have the brick on the first floor. It was kind of that style on the second and third floors throughout the entirety of the project.
Yeah, because the print I have here now from Phoenix is a much different print than what's showing
Shane,
here.
I can't hear Mr. Pisano if he's...
I think I understand what you're saying, Leo. It looks like that the PowerPoint that you're looking at right now seems to be an older version of what we're proposing to build. There's many more windows on the side than what you saw in the first one. So this seems to be like an older version. So if you go to the, not the PowerPoint, but to the PDF that's called
The
architectural plans.
Yeah, this one.
That one, you go to the front page,
Right.
the first page,
Right, this is the one I'm comparing it up against.
the first page.
Sure.
This that you're showing right now is not a very unique looking building for a building that's on the Malden-Everett line. As people enter Everett, they're looking at a kind of a very plain looking building. We had the same problem down at 302 Broadway at the other end, coming out of Sweets of Circle, a gentleman putting up a building. It was very plain. After speaking with him for a while, he added a whole lot more brick and a lot more style. Yours.
I'm not hearing anything from Mr. Pisano if he's speaking.
Mr. Pisano, let me just kind of, sure.
Speaking right at you as best I can.
So I can hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now okay? Shane, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Mr. O'Neill, if you can't hear Mr. Pisano's question, like I said, I'm going to be sending over a 99% version of this video to all the board members in ECTV, and I'll have a list of the questions that Mr. Pisano asked.
All right, you can just write them down, Shane, and if they can't hear me, I think the building is a very plain-looking building for a building that's on the borderline with Malden. People coming into Everett, the first thing they see is this building. Again, 302 Broadway, we had the builder changed a lot of his style, added a lot more brick, put on a much nicer looking building that was proposed. And I would suggest the same thing with this building. It's very plain. I understand you're going by the design guidelines, but also the board has the option of asking for a little more. Your roof line doesn't show anything. It's just a very plain looking building. I think you could improve a whole lot more with it if you would. Particularly, I was going back to the way the old version you had looked. You had much more detail there. This building just sits there. It doesn't do a whole lot for a gateway into our city from Malden along Route 99. So I think it'd be great if we could do a little more design detail on the building. That's basically my comment on the building for now.
We can take a look at that. I'm definitely open to something, much more architecturally, aesthetically pleasing. So I can work with Peter Sandorsi to figure out exactly what we can do to see if we can, if there's something that we have to do to figure this out. So I'm sure that with his experience that we can figure something out here.
We had hoped, and I'm not sure, I'm going to ask the planning board. I had standing lines on the original building, and I was bringing the bays forward about 1 foot, those aluminum bays that you see on right and left. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that over the edge of Broadway sidewalk on the second floor.
I would say not, because they just went through another project on 600 Broadway where they were overhanging the sidewalk, and I believe, and don't quote me, that they pushed it back for that reason. But that building, it's just very plain.
I think though, adding back in, even if it's no overhang, allowing some of that standing seam metal roof to come back into the design would make a huge difference on the facade. That's what I think, Mr. Pisano, you were reacting to on the first building.
You're correct, sir. You're correct. The first building, when I saw that come up, I said, well, now that's a much better looking building that we have the plans that were submitted. So if we can get some of those architectural details back into it, that'd be great. Maybe your roof line could have a little bit more detail to it. And instead of just being boxy looking, it's very boxy looking, put it that way, okay? And I know you architects, you can do some fantastic work when you want to, so if we can make a few changes, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Any other members of the board having any other comments?
I have a question. I just want to know, Esther Street, is there going to be any, I didn't notice you didn't have any on the plans, if there's any trees or anything to be put back on the sidewalks, or is there going to be some kind of landscaping on that end on that? Because I didn't see anything on the plan, when you're developing, if there's going to be any, some trees on the sidewalk area, or is that something that falls under the city's jurisdiction, decide whether they want to put one in there or not. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't seem like there's anything there, on the plans.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Perhaps I can answer that question on the engineer. That is a public way. Both Broadway and Esther Street are a public way. If they wanted to put tree wells in, they'd have to do it. But I think you'll find that there's not at least on SD Street, there's not enough sidewalk to put tree wells and meet the handicap standards.
Okay. Okay.
For
I have a question.
clarification, Peter, can you just state your full name and what engineering firm you work for?
Yeah, it's Peter Ogren from Hayes Engineering.
All right, thank you, Peter.
No problem.
Great. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a little surprised Leo didn't ask, but have any of the mechanicals been designed as yet?
Yes, George, that was going to be at the next meeting after they
Oh.
designed it a little different. You're right. Thanks for bringing it up, but you're right,
Because
George.
with that
As far
building,
as the mechanic,
it's more important. Because the building is right on the sidewalk and you can see everything. pretty
right, right. It would almost be like if they run into the situation of an elevator override that we bring up all the time,
Yeah.
and that building is square box with a 10 by 10, a 12-story box on top of it. So we're always concerned with the elevator override, trying to keep it down to 3 feet. And George brings up a good point. Where are your mechanicals going up there? What are your mechanicals? But maybe, like I would say, I was just hoping that after a redesign would bring that up. But it's a good point, George. Thank you.
So I want to add that we don't plan on having an elevator in this building. Just want to point that out.
Okay. Works for me, then we don't have to worry about an elevator override. First
Yeah,
floor
if
is
you design your mechanical systems, I'm wondering about penetrations through the exterior of the building. I mean, you're right on SD Street with a good portion of the building, and you're right on Broadway with another good portion.
All of the venting is going to be through the roof.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you.
And it's in some of my materials too. There will be no side-mounted satellite dishes. The only satellite dish will be on the roof, and it'll be set back enough from the parapets that it won't be visible from the street level or above. So yeah, there won't be anything unsightly hanging off of this building.
Very good.
All right. Any more comments from the board?
Is this an Airbnb or is this going to be residential people actually living there, or is it going to be?
No, these are going to be long-term leases.
Okay.
Some of the other materials that I did put in our submission, we're going to encourage the tenants to use public transportation. There's going to be a provision that we will not be seeking off-street parking stickers for the residents. And even though we've got 9 parking units, the parking spaces will agree to the prohibition against the issuance of on-street parking for the other spots. And we're also going to provide, for at least some period, and I can't remember what Sharif agreed to, but we advocated for some subsidized T-passes to at least introduce people to the accessibility and the high-speed bus lane that we're going to have at least for most of this trip. So yeah, we're kind of on board with what the city's trying to do here.
So just final comments from me. Sent over a staff report over to the planning board. I'll post it on the Google Drive so people can see as well. Two major things that came kind of out of this. Closing the curb cut on Broadway. I've sent this over to David as well, making sure that that curb cut continues. The curb cut is closed on Broadway, and the sidewalk continues for the portion of Broadway. And additionally, based on the new site plan sets, I do have some current concerns about the new the pillars for the overhang. I know that currently, David, you're reworking the parking sizes, but my concern is that what an official parking space, if let me just kind of bring up the plan sets right here in front of the board. All right, let me just share my screen. All right, here we are. So you have these the pillars on parking space 1 and parking space 4. You do have the pillars that are kind of in the way. So I do believe that would take possibly a foot off spaces 1 and 4 for parking. So those are just 2 of my concerns in terms of the size of those parking spaces, because I know they are the right size for a parking space, but it's just my concern with those 2 columns in terms of making sure that, one, the people that park in the 1 and 4 spots don't crash into the columns, but also giving them enough room where someone can get out of the car. Because currently, if a passenger is getting out of space number 1, they're kind of going into that grassy area. And number 4, a passenger and a driver should be able to get out of those spaces. But I would also just swap the handicap space for number 2 with number 3, just so that if there's a van drop-off, they're able to access that loading area. So I would just switch 2 to 3 for the ADA space, and just concerns in terms of car spaces for the pillars for 1 and 4.
I'd just like to speak to that, if I might.
Sure.
Having the pillars in that location is typical of a parking garage. I think you'll find that most any parking garage you go into, you don't have a free span. You have a pillar at the end of the space, and the car can go beyond the thing to the pillar to open the door. So that's out at the very 18-foot mark. So it's typical of a configuration you'd see inside a parking garage.
Okay. If we could just get the measurements of those pillars, well, we can just incorporate in the plan so the board has an understanding.
Yep.
Okie dokes. All right. All right. Any more comments from the board members, or we can open up public comment? All right. All right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We're going to open up public comment for the this portion of the meeting, if you are amenable to it.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this? The audience? So-called audience.
I do not see anyone in the chat, and I do not see anyone partaking in the rest of the meeting. So I would assume that there is no comment as part of this current meeting. But like we said, we'll be taking in 14 days of public comment using 99% of the footage for this meeting, and also having access to the Google Drive as well. So
should we continue with the public hearing portion?
Yeah, we'll continue the public hearing portion, and we'll also look for a continuance for the applicant to the 28th to allow them to make some changes to the plans, if the applicant feels that the 28th is an appropriate amount of time.
I'm okay with it as long as both Peter and Peter are okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Peter from Hayes.
Mr. Santos, you can.
I'm okay with that. That sounds great.
Fine. Should we ask all those in favor?
Sure, we can do a motion. But we do have, I have one comment from Cheyenne Rangel. She will be abstaining from this application. So I'm going to either need Phil.
Wait a minute.
Oh, it's for the next one.
Not this one. It's the next one.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay, not
910, brother.
Sorry. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
You can vote.
We're still on.
My bad.
983. I'm going to ask those 3 times for those that are in favor. Is anyone in favor of this petition? Anyone in favor of this petition? Third and final time, is anyone in favor of this petition? Hearing none, that part of the public hearing is closed. Going to ask for those that may be.
Can I just recommend that we
keep the public hearing open?
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. But we're just going to go through the motions here, please. Anyone opposed to this petition? Is someone speaking?
I see iPhone. No, I don't believe so.
Okay, anyone else opposed to this petition? Third and final time, is anyone else opposed to this petition? Hearing none, that part of the public hearing is closed. We'd like to keep this public hearing open for public comment and chats or whatever we see mechanically here. So the chair will entertain a motion for continuance.
I'll make a motion for continuance for site plan review, as well as a motion to keep the public hearing open for 983 Broadway until April 28th, 2020 at Everett City Hall, 3rd floor, Cavarian Room at 7 o'clock.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. A roll call vote, please.
All right. Mr. Chairman Confasa.
Yes.
Leo Pisano.
Yes.
Michael O'Connor.
Yes.
Diane Rangel.
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
Yes.
All right. 5-0. The application has been continued to the April 28th, 2020 meeting. All right. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
not finished yet. Oh, you're talking about the others. Okay.
Thank you from 983 Broadway.
Thank you. All right.
Yes. Thank you, David.
All right. Let me share my screen. All right. All right. Number 5. We have a site plan review waiver request for 810 Broadway. It's a project for interior renovation for a conversion of a 3-family house to a 4-family house. So we received this application of a site waiver of a site plan review on March 2nd, 2020. And if the applicant is here, I'm happy to hear your application.
Yes, I am.
Hi, Alan. How's it going today?
Good. How are you?
All right. If you can just do a quick presentation about why you're requesting a site plan waiver and kind of some details about your project.
Well, so you guys have all the exhibits showing the plans, the site plans, and in front of you. I'm not too familiar with how Zoom works in terms of all these things. I've been sort of watching the previous meeting, so
it's okay. Yeah, let me. I have the site plan in front of us.
Oh, okay.
So showing the exterior of the building, the proposed 6 parking spaces.
Yeah. So this is an existing 3-family dwelling with it's mixed use. As far as I could tell, anyway. With a previous insurance business on the 1st floor and a residential use on the 1st floor, consisting of previously 2-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit on the 2nd floor, and also a studio apartment in the basement, which was, as far as I could research, there was a variance that was issued by the zoning board previously. That's what I could find on a jacket at the building department. And Jim Supper is there. He could probably correct me if I'm wrong. But that's what I saw anyway. So the owner purchased this property, and he is in the business of owning multi units, and he doesn't, and his niche is really residential, and he just wanted to turn that insurance business into a dwelling unit. So that's what he's asking for, basically, on his unit. So the floor plans as presented will show you just the conversion of that 1st floor unit being turned into a separate apartment just by creating a firewall separating that 1st floor into 2 units. which is going to create basically 2 one-bedroom dwelling units on the first floor. And we're also proposing just to improve upon the existing basement unit, which is just very poorly done. Yeah, if you go down to the that's the existing right there. That's the existing basement unit, which basically fits. If you go back a little bit, sorry.
Sure.
That page there shows this area right there towards the right, the upper right on the screen. That's basically, you have the little bathroom there, and it's like a studio unit. So it's very small, very uncomfortable. But that's what was permitted previously through the special permit from the zoning board when they allowed the conversion into a 3-family. So if you scroll down to the next page, it'll show you the proposal of that apartment. We're still keeping it as a 1-bedroom, but a much more comfortable unit where you have a nicer bedroom with walk-in closet and a living room. A much nicer kitchen, laundry, and in speaking with Jim Soper about this proposal, the really only change that this building is going to suffer on the exterior is the installation of a below grade window well for this, just for egress purposes of the bedroom there, because we're moving it towards the front, but this is not going to show up anyway. As you look from the outside, it's just literally a 3-foot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the window well egress structures, but they're just below grade anyway. About 6 or 8 inches of it show up above grade. It's just to create that area, 3-foot area in front of the window, so that in case of an emergency, fire personnel can get in and/or occupants can get out through that window. So that's the only exterior change that building is really suffering, and that is in front of the building. And it's like a little bit of a landscaped area that's in front there. So we're planning to put in some, some trees in front of it, some shrubs, just to kind of cover it anyway and keep the nice facade that it has already between those 2 staircases there that are shown in that with those hatched areas there. Mm-hmm. It's like that grass area that you see in that site plan. So that's basically the gist of the project. As far as the zoning. As far as the zoning goes, we were cited for not complying with the parking and the number of parking. We do have, 6 parking spots. We are required to have 2 per dwelling in the dwelling district. So we are down to 2. So we are going to be asking for, I guess, a relief or a variance for reduction of parking. We are just like the previous project, we are obviously on Broadway. There's plenty of public transportation there. We all know that. It seems to me that this is something that the city is in favor of anyway, looking for these 1-bedroom units. The owner's idea is to market this to the young professional or even elderly, markets where, he's not trying to get large families with a lot of kids in that area. He's looking to get more young professionals. I don't know if you guys know, but he owns the restaurant down street from that property. So it's actually an opportunity even for his own workers to live close by, to his restaurant. So that was an opportunity for him to purchase that property and just develop upon it. So that's pretty much it. So we're not doing anything else to no change to the structure outside besides the that window well, and that's why we were looking for that site plan waiver, review waiver, as we thought we didn't fall within the parameters of that because there were no changes to the exterior or pretty much is an existing condition.
All right. Does any members of the board have any questions?
I have
Derek?
one quick question. The first floor, you have two one-bedroom apartments on the first floor?
Okay.
Is that right, Alan? And
Yes.
You have in the basement, you have, what do you consider the basement? Is it one bedroom in the basement or a studio?
It's currently a studio. We're making it a one bedroom. Yes.
Okay, fine. Where is your fourth bedroom then? On the second floor?
The second floor is currently a 2-bedroom unit.
Okay, that's what I want to know. So the second floor has one 2-bedroom unit. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any members of the board?
There again, on the parking issue, if you're getting relief, will there be stickers offered?
I'm sorry, who's asking the question?
Oh, that was the chairman.
Jim?
Did you hear me?
No.
Jim Soap is here.
Yep, that's Jim.
Jim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'm asking if they do seek relief for the parking issue, parking stickers available for them as well?
That would have to be a condition by the Zoning Board of Appeals. They do that most of the time, but we haven't gone through that process yet.
Are you affirming that or you're asking me?
I'm asking as a condition, is there a condition when you go before the Board of Appeals, will parking permits be issued to your tenants?
Oh, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it would. I think that's how he likes to. I think he does that right into his lease agreements, where depending upon the number of bedrooms, he. I don't think. Honestly, I don't know whether he issues parking stickers, but it's determined on the lease as to how many cars each unit can have. But if it's a condition of the zoning board, I don't see why that would be a problem. You know, that would be. I don't see how that could be an issue with him.
Well, the real reference question is if there are 4 units that you're leasing out or renting out, and there's 8 cars, where are the others going to go? That's my question.
Just to kind of answer that question, Mr. Chairman, as part of the site plan review, they're looking for a waiver for the site plan review, but this is a stipulation that we could recommend as part of our site plan waiver over to the zoning board, because the applicant will require a variance as part of this. So that could be a recommendation as part of the site plan waiver to the zoning board of appeals, because the applicant hasn't gone before the zoning board of appeals yet.
The way I understand, he hasn't gone there yet. That's why he's come to us first.
Correct.
However, if the board so wishes to have that as a condition, we have to pass that on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and also it is an understanding that, you know, that's just to the owner, to us, it's just a common sense thing that we cannot obviously rent, you know, these units to people that obviously have more vehicles than we can support inside of the property. So, you know, that's why the target is, you know, people that do use the, you know, public transportation system. Actually, the whole idea behind this project was that, you know, by creating these 1-bedroom units, the chances of targeting this different audience is much better with these smaller bedroom, you know, with single bedroom units, that when you have larger bedroom, you know, 2-bedroom units or 3-bedroom units, you have a better chance of renting to young professionals that work in the city, you know, that depend less on private transportation. So that was the owner's idea. Anyway, he's been successful at these types of, you know, of rental applications. So.
Yes, I don't doubt that. The man does a great job in the city, and we certainly do respect him. So that being said, I have no further questions or comments.
Any other members of the board have any other comments? All right, hearing none, we'll open up to public comment. Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone out there that would like to speak on or against this request? Anything in your chat?
Nothing in my chat. How can I access previous meetings? That's all right. Nope, nothing pertaining to this meeting. Nothing pertaining to this particular meeting. I do have received comments saying, how can I access previous meetings, but that's really not pertaining to this one.
Right.
I can send a Google Drive. I'm just going to respond by saying I can send a Google Drive link. But nothing in regards to this meeting.
Well, hearing none, then I think the chair can entertain a motion.
Could I just ask one question, please, Fred? I would suggest
Well, that's
that
what we're here for, Leo.
Okay, well, thank you. Gee, that's great. The issuing of parking permits, can't we just let that go to the ZBA to make that decision, not a condition from us?
That's what we're doing, Leo.
Yeah, okay. No, I heard you say that you were going to have us make a condition. Let them make the condition. No. Okay, okay.
Going to them with a condition, a request for a condition.
Yeah, that's what I'm
board.
Okay, we can put a request. Okay. Okay. And the request for the condition would be not to allow parking permits for the tenants. Is that correct?
That would be, yeah, off-street parking permits. I mean,
Right, there'd be
on-street
no-
parking permits.
So if we give them a site plan waiver, it will be with the request not to issue any off-street parking permits.
On street.
On street.
With the recommendation, not that, no, we don't,
Mamma mia, let them worry about it. That's what I'm telling you. Let the zoning board of appeals worry about it. It shouldn't even come out of us. We keep
Correct.
fighting this thing all the time. They're the ones that initiated that whole problem. So, okay, all right, I'll make a motion for favorable action for site plan review waiver request with the condition, with the suggestion to the zoning board of appeal not to issue any parking, off-street parking permits. That makes sense?
it makes sense to me.
On
Very
street.
good. And we need
On
to stick-
street.
On street, yep, on-street parking, all right.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Motion is made and seconded to approve the waiver for site plan waiver request for 810 Broadway with conditions to the zoning board. Roll call vote, please.
Sure. This is actually the one that Cheyenne is
Abstaining from, we
abstaining.
understand.
So I'm going to need either Phil or Mr. Tar to step in. You
Well,
guys,
you have 4 members, don't you?
we do have 4 members.
Right,
but-
4 members.
Yeah, but that's why we have alternates to fill in.
Okay.
All right, so if anyone wants to step up, either Phil or
The
Jim.
alternates fill in when we don't have a quorum.
Jim will be in. Okay. So we'll do. We'll have Shane, Stain, and from there we will. All right, I'll do a roll call vote. All right, Mr. Cafaso,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelo,
Yes.
and Mr. Tar.
Yes.
All right. Favorable motion for everyone. And all right. Motion to approve the site plan waiver request for Broadway, 801 Broadway.
810.
All right, 810 Broadway. All right. You guys are all set. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. You guys stay safe.
You as well. All right, board members. A few more items and we'll be free to go. Let's see. Let me share my screen. All right. We have a A&R plan for 14 Harding Street. I sent it over to the board members previous in the week, but let me put it on my screen. Typical A&R plan. Corner of Harding Street and Harding Avenue and Elm Street. You know, a lot split between lot 10 and lot 9. So we're just looking for a motion from the board to approve this A&R. I will send over after the meeting a DocuSign sheet. Mr. Delory Law is actually here. If you guys would like to resume share. Discuss the A&R.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Delory.
How are you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board? Tony, Shane, Jim
Hey.
Soper, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
All well.
This is an A&R plan, as Shane had said, that divides these two lots into lot 9 and lot 10. The reason that we state in the application that we're entitled to that A&R plan is that when split, each lot will have adequate frontage on a public way. That's the key to the A&R plan. This actually was originally 2 lots, and over time it merged as zoning changed. And then the Board of Appeals on January 21st, which seems like a lifetime ago now, we appeared there at a public hearing, and they granted the relief that would be necessary, because once we divided the lots, there was a 2-family house that will remain on the upper lot, which is lot 9. There'll be a new building built on 10. They required some minor zoning relief. So they granted the variances, and now we're before you for the A&R plan. And as I said, the plan was originally, these are 2 lots that are identical to a 1927 plan. And having received the variance and the zoning relief, it's now presented to you for signature.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Chair will entertain a motion if we had none.
Okay. I'll make a motion for favorable action for approval, not required plans for 14 Harding Street.
Harding Avenue, please.
Oh, Harding
Harding
Avenue.
Ave-
Harding Ave.
Harding.
Second.
Harding Avenue.
All right. We have a second.
You have a second?
Yep.
Second the motion.
Like a second. A roll call vote, please.
All right. Chairman Cafaso.
Yes.
Leo Pisano.
Yes.
Michael O'Connor.
Yes.
Diane Ringel.
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
Yes.
All right. We have 5-0. All right. The A&R has been approved by the board. Mr. Delory, we will send you over the DocuSign information that you can send over to Middlesex.
Can I just inquire, because can I just inquire because of the unusual situation we're in? So how will you sign the Mylar, Shane? Will you sign on behalf of the board?
I would need the board to allow me to sign the Mylar on behalf of the board.
Okay. When you say a DocuSign sheet, what are you saying? A piece of
That's an
paper?
online PDF signatures.
Okay, but how will it, in other words, when I go to record it, hopefully I can get over there to record it only because they're taking everything by mail.
Sure.
What
We would have the board sign it electronically, and I would send you a PDF copy of that
in other
signed
words,
PDF.
they're not going to take a Sharpie and sign the Mylar, correct? It's going to be a separate sheet? Is that what
Yeah, it would
you're
be a
saying?
separate sheet.
Okay, all right.
All right. And,
Quick question, if I may, on that. Shane, Attorney Delory, is the Mylar necessary? And if so, is the Mylar here in the office?
Yeah, you have the Mylar, I think 5 or 6 paper copies, Tony, but yes, the only thing I can require at the plan department in Middlesex or any registry is a Mylar, a signed Mylar, so.
Okay. So I can get that over to you. I can get the Mylar back. I can drop it off tomorrow. If Shane, do we have it here physically?
yeah, it's on my desk.
Okay. Unless if Shane, do you need the Mylar for some reason?
I do not.
Okay. So yeah, I can get it over to you tomorrow morning, or should say tomorrow afternoon, if it's all right with you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's not a problem. I guess I'm just trying to get my hands around how it
Yeah.
will be signed. Is there a piece of paper attached to it with DocuSign signatures?
Yeah, I can send over a DocuSign PDF of the board signatures.
I mean, can they designate you, Shane or Tony, to sign as an authorized person that could actually physically sign the Mylar?
I guess with a roll call vote for this particular A&R, the board prefers.
So if I could just jump in on that though, I think it's in, let me just pull the statute up real quick, in chapter 4181P, which covers A&Rs, talks about when the board authorizes someone else to sign for them, that document itself has to be recorded at the registry of deeds.
Okay.
So if you haven't done it yet, you could do it, but you would still need to be able to record. Let me just pull it up here real quick and get the exact language. So 4181P provides, I'm sorry, my computer's a little slow tonight.
It's okay.
That, let's see. If the planning board of a city or town which has authorized any person other than a majority of the board to endorse on the plan the approval of the board, has to transmit a written statement to the register of deeds and the recorder of the land court signed by a majority of the board giving the name of the person so authorized.
That would seem to be under the circumstances. I think that would be the best thing to do. Yeah.
Yep. So you would need to perhaps record with the plan itself, the document that says that the board, a document representing that the board has authorized, whether it's Shane or Tony or whomever, to sign this
Sure, I can
particular
send
plan.
over a document if the board feels comfortable doing so. Could be a
And you could,
DocuSign.
I think you could do it specifically for this particular plan, and you could just record it with this plan. But it would also have to be signed by the board, by a majority of the board.
Sure.
Yeah. And for convenience, I don't mind signing it once when it's teed up.
Okay.
Just to expedite it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because what I could do is, I think I'd probably have to record the plan on the 4th floor and then take that document down on the 2nd unless the plan department takes it in. But,
yeah,
I'm willing to try it. It's just that I know where everybody disperses. It could be a while before I could physically get that Mylar signed.
Right. And who knows? They might have something completely different that we don't even know about.
Well, that's true. The guidance changes every day from the registry.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate the board's time, and maybe I can talk to you tomorrow about it, Tony.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you.
And is the board comfortable with that sort of authorization for Tony to sign the Mylar?
Do we need to have a vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
If to have a vote for the authorization for Tony, the planning director, to sign this 14 Harding Avenue A&R.
Do we have a motion?
A motion for Tony Souza to sign for the planning board for the A&R at 14 Hadley Ave.
Harding.
Harding, yeah.
Harding.
It's a tough street.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to authorize the planning director, Tony Souza, to sign on behalf of the board.
Yeah, Michael O'Connor. All right, we're going to do a roll call vote. Chairman Cafaso?
Yes.
Leo Pisano?
Yes.
Michael O'Connor?
Yes.
Diane Rangel?
Yes.
George D'Angelo?
Yes.
All right. It is written.
Well, just one last point. Will you have the statement that will be required to take with me?
Yeah, I'm going to send over a statement to the board for them to sign for tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we'll have that authorization whether the board signs.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Be safe.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Meeting minutes. We're a little behind on the meeting minutes for March 9th. Jeannie and I are working on them. So at the next meeting for the 28th, we'll have the March 9th, 2020 meeting minutes, as well as the April 14th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Okay.
And let's see. Staff communications, process for online meetings and remote public meetings. I just want to thank you all for participating for today. It's a process that is new, albeit not perfect whatsoever. With the miscommunication that occurred at this meeting, we're going to edit that, but we just want to reflect that. We apologize for what happened, and that we are making so that one participant can share at a time. Being that it's a public meeting, we deal with the issues of public hearing occasionally. But we're hoping to resolve all these issues for the 28th. But I'll be able to edit down the meeting to an appropriate sign to send over to ECB, and we'll continue working on this process as we move forward remotely until we meet again.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. I don't think we need a roll call vote, but all those in favor?
Oh, I didn't hear enough though.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I heard 5 ayes. Yep.
We are adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Take care. Be safe.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.